When investigators spoke with the staff at Tilted Kilt, however, it was the manager who first led them in the direction of Sidney Moorer. Heather's manager there was aware not only of the relationship between the two, but also had some other key information that we're going to come back to, that manager at the Tilted Kilt. By this time, police had obtained Heather's phone data records through her father, because Heather was still on that family plan, What they learned were Heather's last movements, calls and texts she made and received, and Heather's and this is really how police pieced together their timeline. They discovered that after calling her roommate Brianna, she calls back the payphone, but no one answered. That's at 2:30 a.m. Shortly after that call was placed, a ping shows her phone traveling to Longbeard's Bar and Grill nearby, where she stayed for approximately 15 minutes. So she hangs up with her roommate Brianna. A couple minutes go by. She calls back to this payphone. No answer. I don't even think she knew it was a payphone at that point, but calls back to that number. There's no answer. And then she leaves at 2:30 in the morning and drives, to this Longbeard's restaurant, sits basically in the parking lot for 15 minutes. She then appears to leave from there, travel roughly 4 miles away to the Augusta Plantation Drive, and then turns around, returns to Longbeard's, where she just left from, stays for another 15 minutes, and I imagine that place has got to be closed at this point.
So she's not made any other phone calls, though?
No.
Except that one to the payphone?
Yeah, that at this point, yeah. One to the
She doesn't have a call into Sidney, is what I'm saying. Like, they're not coordinating to meet in that parking lot.
That I don't know.
Okay.
But there are calls that we know of to Sidney that are yet to be made.
Okay.
But it wasn't really clear. And that's a good question. I couldn't really, because you're thinking if...
You think she's just driving around, like this may have been meeting points that they would have met before, and she just, I'm going to show up here, and if not here, then here, and if I can't talk to him, then this is where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I think so. Or on that phone call, that she got at whatever, 1:45 in the morning, meet me here or meet me at our spot.
Got it.
And it sounds like she goes there. He's not there, waits for 15 minutes,
goes to another spot
and then comes back.
Yeah.
So, and I think from the way her roommate described how she was, crying and really upset, I get the feeling that right now she's like frantic, going to this place, waiting for a couple minutes, then driving 4 miles away, turning around, going back, waiting more. You just kind of get this like frantic, upset.
Especially the time of night.
Yeah, at that time of night. There's no reason you're out driving around like that in circles, basically. She then places a call to Sidney's phone, but there's no answer to his cell phone. So she heads back home, which is about 5 minutes away. And once home, she tries Sidney's phone again, this time resulting in a 4-minute conversation. There's no way, though, to tell who was on the other end of that call. So she calls Sidney's phone, and this is where I started to get the feeling that like there's a weird setup thing happening here between Tammy and Sidney. She called Sidney's phone, and there's this 4-minute call, but there's no proof that it was him she was speaking to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And I wouldn't even think that if it wasn't for someone like Tammy's, her temperament already is batshit crazy.
Yeah.
So at 3:37 a.m., just minutes after that call ended with Sidney's phone, Heather's phone pings at the Peachtree Landing boat ramp. That's where her car ended up. She then attempts to reach Sidney again on his cell phone numerous times over a 2-minute period. And I think it was like 8 or 9 calls in a 2-minute period to his phone, all unanswered. One final unanswered call was placed at 3:41 a.m., and her phone goes offline from that point. Its location could only be identified as somewhere within the Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge, which the landing is technically inside of. It's isolated, it's fairly desolate, dark at night, kind of feels remote, And this is not a place for a 20-year-old pretty girl to be sitting in her car alone at, you're talking almost 4 a.m.
There's no one else out there. It's one thing to be by the all night restaurant on the main strip, but this is not good if she's out in the middle of nowhere like that.
Well, yeah, and you clearly have to think that she is meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you go to this particular place? And it's a remote kind of. I mean, it's a boat launch.
Especially with the trauma of earlier in the night, where there's just a lot of drama and back and forth, with, like you said, hysterics, and it's confusing, like why this call even happened, why she gets in the car to go see him, the fact that she's going back and forth to all these locations, and somehow, hey, we landed here, this is going to be great. Or, like the kind of the worst place. It's like when you watch a Friday the 13th movie and like, I'm going to go take a walk in the woods in 3 a.m. Like, it's just not going to end well.